Okay, so are we missing anybody? I don't know. Jane, are we missing anybody? Is this it? A new group?
We're ready to go.
Oh, no, wait a minute. I thought it was somebody else.
Isn't there one more new person? Judy? This? No?
No, there's only 5 of us.
Okay.
I don't think this changed.
Mine was P&D then.
P&D did.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, call the meeting to order. First item on our agenda is approval of the minutes from May 28.
Move approval?
Second.
Any changes? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? City payroll through the 19th of May, $2,658,927.09. Motion to...
Move to approve?
Thank
Second?
you. All in favor?
Aye.
Next are the city bills. Did everybody have a chance to read them? City bills through June 11, $2,735,378.71. Any questions or anything on the motion?
Move to approve the bills? Second?
Second. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Credit card activity for the period ending April 30, $126,522.47.
Second.
Any questions? None? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the first, let's see. I haven't chaired in so long. I think we're going to let people speak at the beginning. Anybody have a problem with that? All right, we have people signed up to speak. First person on our list is Virginia Beatty for A3.5, the greenhouse. Okay. See her? I know, but I don't see her. Where? Anybody who just came in, not signed up, and wants to speak? You know what? You'll sign in when you come to speak. Just raise your hand, and I'll call on you. I don't think so either. All right. Who would like to speak to items on the Administration and Public Works agenda? All right. Step up, please. And then, would you put this at the podium so you can sign in up there?
I am.
We need you definitely to sign in, though.
Yeah, I'm person number 2.
Okay. Oh, you're on there already.
Yes, I am, yeah.
Well,
I am speaking on behalf of A3.4. So, good evening. My name is John Arnton. I am the managing director of Next Theater. I'm here today to speak on behalf of the new seats for Next Theater Space. Next Theater, now going into its 33rd season, has been a resident of the Noyes Cultural Arts Center since its inception in 1981. The seats in the theater have been there for far longer than that. The seats have been in disrepair for a long time and are now falling apart. Damage to the seats is very expensive to fix as replacement parts are out of date and difficult to come by. And to anyone who's been or has seen a Next Theater production, you know how uncomfortable they can be. Next, Artistic Director Jennifer Avery and I have been collaborating with Tim Rose, Artistic Director of Fleetwood Jourdain Theater, and Evanston's Facilities Management Team to find the best seats for our theater. We believe we have found the proposed seats for our space that will provide comfort, accessibility, and some flexibility to our cherished theater space. When you take into account that Next Theater is building new audiences by producing critically acclaimed theater that has merited national attention, replacing the seats is an investment that makes sense. The seats, like other improvements at the Noyes Center, are an investment in the artistic institution of Evanston, 2000s who are attracted to Next shows every year from all over the Chicagoland area. Thank you. This is Rob Andelman.
Sure. It's Rob Andelman, 1218 Asbury in Evanston. And John and I are tag teaming because I'm the president of the board at Next. And I also wanted to speak just to thank you in advance, hopefully, for supporting this. Really exciting things are happening at the theater and at the Noyes Center. I feel like there's been so much controversy about the building that it kind of dilutes the good that's happening there. And I also, as president of the Next, sometimes feel like we get left out of the dialogue because we haven't come down particularly strong on some of the controversial issues. But we have been here for 32 years, and we do some pretty amazing things in the space we have. We've gotten 77 Jeff nominations and 133. It's like the Tony in Chicago. We've employed thousands of individual artists over the years, 125 just last year. We attracted almost 8,000 people to the theater last year, and 3,000 were Evanstonians, but 5,000 were coming from Chicago and from the suburbs. So a lot of great things really are happening in the building, and we are. And we also get a lot of media attention. We get written up in the Tribune and the Sun-Times. We've been written about in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, and obviously Time Out Chicago. Unfortunately, when they write about us, they often have to have some caveat about how we put on these amazing productions, notwithstanding our space. And so we're thrilled that the city is paying attention to that and making efforts to fix it. The seating issue is a big part of it, and we very much appreciate the support in replacing those seats. And we look forward to being part of this dialogue that's ongoing about how to accomplish the other changes that really are necessary for this building to be sustainable as a gathering place for Evanstonians, which it is, and as a magnet and a destination artistically and economically for the city. So thank you.
Excellent, thank you. I'm lost without my list. Doug, could you just call the next person, if there is a next person on there?
Let's see, we had Rob Anderson, John Arndt, and Virginia Beatty.
And Virginia's not here. All right, next
Virginia
person.
Beatty is
Oh, is
sitting
she here? Virginia, I can't see. You want to come up and speak now? You were first, actually.
My name is Virginia Beatty, and I live at 1509 Forest Avenue in Evanston, and I'm here to speak on the so-called Greenhouse Edition. I was given an opportunity to see it last week, and I appreciate being able to see the plan, the elevation, and the book that goes with it. It's not for a greenhouse at all, so that's not a point. And there's a desperate need for room space, classroom space over there at the Ecology Center. But looking at the plan on the elevation, I see many things there that would cost a lot of money and make it more difficult to teach, actually. I mean, why have a special climate control for a room that's not going to be enclosed? Because the folding doors, when they're open, then special climate, whatever it is, goes other places. Why is there a door that's existing there that goes into the storage area being removed and replaced, matched perfectly, when I know we're going to be needing some more space at the Ecology Center because it's a really great addition to Evanston. And in that case, maybe the classroom could get some storage space. That's something I've been very much concerned about. Why have a floor drain if it isn't going to be a greenhouse space? Because if you have water on a flat floor, it'll go into the other room as well, especially when you have folding doors, because they don't go hard flat against the floor. I just was wondering why aluminum windows were being considered when the space there uses windows that go all the way down to the ground and bring nature into the rooms, the different rooms. I just wanted to bring these points up. I think if it was just made clear space to the end, and if that was following the current pattern for windows, young people would be able to look all the way out. I have noticed that there's been a tremendous increase in the use of the Ecology Center. Its reputation is growing. I was there last week, and 3 buses came in from Chicago with kids, and they were really packed solid in there. So I just want to make a pitch. Since this isn't going to be a greenhouse, I'm all for plants and greenhouses, but that's something for another time, I think. We really desperately need space there, but shouldn't be all gussied up with things that don't really add to the use of the thing. I think the windows that you have in the great room there are absolutely fantastic. You could see out. I don't see any need for having windows on the side that you go out to look at the western sun or at the parking lot. That could be just plain and maybe have storage hung on that or something. Anyway, I felt strongly about this. I wanted to share with you my feelings, and it's something that I know a little bit about. And a lot of times I know when people are very busy, they don't have a chance to really look at these little bits and pieces. Thank you very much for listening. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ms. Beatty. Next person who would like to speak on an item on our agenda? Nobody. Okay, moving right along. Thank you. The first item for consideration is 3.1, which is approval of a contract with Alpha Paintworks for the fire hydrant painting. It's an extension of a bid from last year.
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none, you can use your lights because I'll be okay. Hearing none, all those in favor of recommending approval to the council say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item is approval of a contract with Schroeder and Schroeder for the 2013 50/50 sidewalk replacement project.
Second.
Discussion? Alderman Braithwaite.
I just have a question. Just a quick question for staff. After we approve it this evening, how long will it take to get the contractors out to start working on the sidewalks?
Rajiv Dahal, senior traffic engineer. It'll be some time in September. What we'll do is, once the contract is approved, we notify the residents about their cost, what the cost is, and we send the invoice if they're interested. And once we receive that, then the contract will start.
So people sign up first, and then you tell them how much it's going to cost once we get the bid.
Correct.
So some people might not be able to handle that.
That's correct.
And is there room on our list for any additional sidewalks?
Not for this year. We're already running into next year.
For sure.
Well, if people have that, they can give it to us. We'll look into it.
Okay, everybody? Any further discussion? Is that all those in favor of recommending this one to the council, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item is approval of a contract with RNOW, Inc. for the purchase of a recycling truck in the amount of $233,319.
Second?
Any discussion on this one? Nope. All those in favor of recommending to the council, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, approval of a single-source contract award recommendation to the Larson Equipment and Furniture Company for Noise Theater seating replacement project.
Second.
And this is in the amount of $46,609. Any discussion? Yes, Alderman Grover.
If I may, Madam Chair, as the gentlemen have suggested, it's definitely a great investment, I think, of the city's money to improve this theater space, which is well used. And having experienced those seats myself, I can say that I'm looking forward to seats that don't pivot back and forth in a really kind of unusual way. And I'm hoping that at some point we can also address the lobby of this space for Actors Gymnasium and Next Theater, because it's really not fitting. It's not a fitting lobby. It's not a welcoming lobby for the two great theater groups in Evanston. And so that's needing attention as well.
And also for the public to know, this is not just seats. This is removing what's there, bringing in new, having a whole new configuration, especially in the front where they can move the seats
More
around
flexible
for a bigger performance area.
Carpet.
I thought it was just a really interesting, things you don't think about because you're not in theater, the way they arranged this. Anything
So
else?
at the State Theater in Traverse City, Michigan, they did a fundraising campaign and installed these beautiful seats. They consulted with Ford Motor Company about the most comfortable theater seats to install, and they are plush red velvet. But of course, it was additionally funded with assistance from Michael Moore, who spends a good part of the year in Traverse City, Michigan. But it is a incredible theater and the most comfortable seats I've ever been in a theater. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So Next Theater's had a great turnaround. I mean, since I've even been a subscriber, I think they're no longer. Remember the years when Next was in arrears to the city for rent, and I think it's really been. They are on much stronger footing and are around for the long term.
Okay. Alderman Holmes.
Thank you.
Right, I'm sorry.
It's okay. I was just simply going to say I was there on Saturday night, as was Alderman Breathwaite, and I can attest to the seats needing replacing. So I just want to say that it really is a good investment.
Absolutely. And 2 theaters, Fleetwood Jourdain and Next,
Absolutely.
will benefit from this. All right. Hearing no further comments, all those in favor of recommending this purchase of theater seats, et cetera, to the council, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Right. Approval of a contract award to Construction Consulting and Disbursement Services, Inc. for the 2013 Ecology Center Greenhouse Addition Project. Could I have a
I would
motion?
move approval. I would move approval.
Okay.
Have
All right.
question.
Alderman Burris had her light on first, and then Alderman Holmes.
I feel like I'm on Jeopardy. I got my light on first. I guess my big question comes back to, if we're not really building a greenhouse, which it sounds like we're not going to be using the space as a traditional greenhouse, and we're really using it for classroom space and storage, would then the construction cost be less if we're not doing a greenhouse and you don't have to have the special glass, the special folding doors, the drainage system in the same way you would in a traditional greenhouse?
Mr. Gaynor.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, Doug Gaynor, Director of Parks, Recreation, Community Services. What we'd really like to do is, because there were a number of questions that Ms. Beatty raised, and we had the opportunity, and we thank her for giving us those questions in advance. What I'd like to do is have Bob Dornicker speak to the programs, which then really responds. And Stephanie Levine would talk about the actual construction, the doors, the walls, the windows, and so on. And hopefully that will answer most of the questions. To be very specific, though, this project started out over 2 years ago, and in our capital plan, it started out as a greenhouse. And over time, it evolved. And so we didn't change the name, but it evolved into something sort of in between. So, Bob, why don't you, if you don't mind.
Hold on one second, Bob. Alderman Holmes and Grover, do you want to speak?
Well,
before
no,
we-
I had basically the
wait.
same question
Okay.
in terms of.
All right. So,
Good evening. Bob Dornicker, Assistant Director of Parks, Recreation, and Community Services. In regards to the programmatic piece, the room, as Doug started to mention, is evolved into something more like a sunroom. So we would anticipate being able to use that space to be able to create to utilize it as a real hands-on experience for the kids to be able to work with both nature, plants, animals, and the sustainability part, which the Ecology Center has really moved into a growing trend of new sustainability programs and connecting with the natural world in regards to the activities that have been recently developed and programs offered at the Ecology Center. So we would use the space to do activities such as growing plants. So we do need a lot of light in the room. Having natural light in the room is very helpful for the activities. In regards to drain, I can't speak of the specifics, but we are going to do some potting and plants with small groups in there. So we do expect a few spills on the floor. So having a drain in the space would definitely help with being able to do some cleaning up as we move forward on the various projects over the course of a year. And in regards to just other types of activities that we plan to use the space for, we're looking to do exploration, for example, for seed study for preschool kids, learning about plant exploration for youth, turning green plants into gardening. So we would be doing some germination type activities for seeds, and then new gardening techniques for adults. So we have a variety of programs that we would foresee using the space for, as well as some of the current programs that we currently offer at the Ecology Center.
Alderman Holmes.
No, it's fine. I'm
Alderman Grover.
trying to address Ms. Beatty's
Thank you, Madam Chair. It sounds like the term greenhouse is kind of a misnomer for what is intended to be multi-purpose space. So this is a way of maximizing our ability to really use the space fully as much as possible rather than limiting its use or purpose to just greenhouse or just classroom. I think, as the memo said, it's a hybrid space for...
That is correct.
And I think before everything, you got to realize what bad shape this space is in right now. So it's needing to be rebuilt in one way or another. So if we build the space as a multi-purpose space, then we're really going to get more bang for our buck in a lot of ways. I appreciate Ms. Beatty's dedication to the Ecology Center and its programs and her interest in expanding the Ecology Center altogether to accommodate enhanced programming and bigger programming. And I think that's what this space does in so many ways.
Alderman Burse.
But I guess I go back to it's really just an addition. I'm for the expanded space and for the storage, but at almost $200,000 for how many square feet? 415 square feet. Seems a little high. I'm just thinking of, you put a second-story addition on your house, or you put something on the back of your house. At $200,000, you're putting in a 415 square feet. That seems like a whole lot of money for a classroom. And if it's not really being a greenhouse, why do we need all the specialized, which I guess was the initial bid process, and we're not going to be growing plants there? Of course, I understand the light, and it would be great to have light in that space. But that amount, can't we bring that down, and we can use that funding for other projects and more expanding programs at the Ecology Center? I just see it as a waste of resources here.
Well, I think that was Ms. Beatty's concern. It's not a greenhouse, and she gets that. But there are... Hi, Stephanie. Hi. But there are considerable greenhouse amenities that are costly that are included. And when I saw the drain, is there irrigation, Stephanie, in the greenhouse?
Stephanie Levine, Public Works Department. The space really doesn't include specialized features for a greenhouse. This is a very, very basic, I understand it's very expensive when you look at it on a cost per square foot basis, but there's really nothing to this, and it's very standard, typical building construction. It has a concrete floor. There's no finish to the floor, which will be slightly sloped to a drain. Our understanding is that the space will be used for planting as well as for classroom activities, and so providing that drain will give the folks utilizing the space the flexibility that Bob Dornicker described. It has a very typical building construction type. It does have a folding partition that separates the classroom space from this addition so that, again, it provides greater flexibility, and the space can be utilized as two separate spaces or one larger space. But it's really quite simple construction, and there's nothing unique or specialized about it. Just to point out, we're looking to award the second low bidder here, not the lowest bidder, due to compliance issues with MWEBE that the lowest bidder was not able to meet.
So if it's not irrigated, Stephanie, if it's not irrigated...
There's no irrigation.
I know. If it's not irrigated, and you're not going to be hosing...
There is a hose bib.
Okay, will they be hosing the plant? I mean...
It's to water plants. It's to hose down the ground surface when, if leaf litter or if soil...
I mean, it's a wonderful convenience, and,
right.
just push it down, but...
Right.
And I don't even know how expensive the drain is, but it seems a little unusual. All right, Alderman Burris, you spoke. Alderman Grover? Oh, you want to speak again? Okay, one more time, and then.
I guess, again, this just seems, as a steward of the public money, this is a real problem, and I don't understand how we could possibly continue to spend this kind of money at $450 a square foot for a classroom space. Maybe I don't understand the specs. I don't understand why it's costing us so much money. So I'm wondering if you can give me an example of another project that we're doing that is costing $450 per square foot in around here, and maybe I voted to approve something like that, and I just missed it, and that could definitely be the case. But I'm glad this has been brought to our attention, because this is financially just doesn't make any sense at all.
Well, I can't give you exact figures for comparison purposes, but as something that I would expect would be of similar character, the washrooms in this building are probably in that kind of range.
That's plumbing issues. It's retrofitting an old building with, you have several different plumbing issues. And that's a completely different versus this is basically new construction with one drain. So it's kind of mixing apples and oranges. So I'm just a basic classroom space.
That's the closest example I can really offer to you.
So, okay.
Alderman Grover.
I guess I want to follow up Alderman Burris's concerns is to what would we attribute what feels like excessive cost to this construction? Is it because we're building to commercial grade, not residential grade? We're building to a higher quality, more durability in this space? Is it that the bidding went out in a way that returned bids to us that were, I don't know, out of range of the market, or I don't know.
I think there's a number of factors. First of all, you're correct. We are building to a commercial grade, and there is a premium for that. We also have a number of requirements, including MWEBE, which I pointed out earlier. That's a $40,000 premium in this particular project. We also pay prevailing wage rates for our projects, so we're paying much higher wage rates than what you might see in residential construction. And then additionally, even though it's a very small project, there's still all the general kind of overhead costs that a contractor is going to assume for getting a construction site prepared, site protection, getting materials to the site, storage, cleanup. All those things still have to happen. And so the smaller the project is, those costs don't really go away. So the smaller the project is, the larger the square foot cost is going to be.
Alderman Holmes.
I was going to ask about the that it would be like a commercial space, so that it would be really different from residential. But you said something that caught my ear in terms of the MWEB. I know it's $40,000 that we're paying to the contractor who's going to do the concrete, as I remember. But why would that be?
The lowest bidder price, I think, without looking at the memo,
$134,000.
Correct. And then the bid that we're considering for award is $175,000. So that's the $40,000 in difference that I'm talking about. Doug asked me to mention something about the HVAC system. We absolutely have to have HVAC improvements if we do this addition, or the classroom will be uninhabitable. It's just the existing building's HVAC system is not capable of supporting this new additional space.
Alderman Rainey.
Good evening.
Good evening. Suzette Robinson, Director of Public Works. Can I offer, can you let us go back and take a look at, a harder look at the design and see if there's some options that we can come up with to scale back, given the comments that have been made and the fact that we are not constructing a greenhouse, and instead of looking at a hybrid, if we're really going to do a classroom, that's what we actually design and construct and come back to you.
Here's the issue, the bid. Will you do it? What are the legalities of changing the project? Given the
we
bid,
would
or
have to
you
we would have to
rebid?
we would have to rebid. We would have to redesign and rebid.
Actually,
I'm sorry. Yes.
I'm sorry. We would defer to the purchasing policy and also Attorney Farrar, as far as if we don't change the scope by more than a certain amount, we can look at some changes within the contract, but we still have to take a look. You cannot change the scale of a contract by more than a certain amount before it does need to be rebid.
I think what Director Robinson recommends is the only solution to the conflict that some are having. But whether or not that's what people want to do is another issue. So I think...
Financially, it seems responsible to look at, since the scope is so different.
And
but the bid is based on the specifications for what we're looking at, whether you call it a greenhouse or a, spa, whatever.
Yes, and I also don't. I want to take a look, further into the difference in bids to attribute that just to the MBE WBE process is not fair. So we want to take a closer look at that as well. And Director Gaynor asked me to mention that in doing that, especially if we are put in a situation to rebid, that we are probably looking at constructing this next year as opposed to this year.
Well, could it be two steps? Could you take a look at the specifications that we have within this bid and see if they can be, I hate to say, tweaked to some extent and still maintain the same contractor?
Yes, we can take a look at that.
Can contractors change if the low bid is accepted? Can the contractor then alter that bid? For example, if we remove things that were not, special bids, like.
Well, the one of the risk you run in terms of removing items is that they don't have to hold their pricing, and they may want to toss it out. So we would have to go really talk to purchasing and legal to see how we would make a modification and what that impact would be.
And just to follow up on that process, normally we adjust unit price bids. So if the Public Works Department is doing 3 blocks of a street and we decide to do 2.5 or 3.5, we can then adjust with the same contractor because our bid was for unit pricing. This is not a unit price bid, so our flexibility is much more limited when we have a not to exceed, build this product for this amount type bid. That's what we're looking at. Procedurally, we can communicate back to the council at the next meeting where we will be heading if it's on the agenda with the revised amount. Then we are moving forward without a rebid, and if it's a memo that says we are rebidding, then it'll appear as soon as we can possibly turn it around.
I think we, if you don't mind, I think we ought to give staff a chance to see if they can make this more palatable in its current form, and then decide whether we should go out to bid or not.
I agree.
Okay. What do you think? I mean, one meeting's not going to delay building this year. I mean, if we have to go out to rebid, it will, but does anybody mind giving them a chance to come back?
I think a little more clarification on the
Yes.
MWEBE issue would be helpful. And that doesn't change any of the bidding, and that just what accounts for the difference in the pricing.
I think you always see that when you have a bidder who does not have it,
and this
then
is
you
a
have one that
significant
does.
percentage of the total
It
bid
certainly
amount.
is, yes,
so,
yes.
But if I may on that, again, we're not looking at the MWEB as an issue. If you look at page 104 of your packet, you see that a group of 4 of the bidders are between $212,000 and $229,000, a tight grouping.
No, 95.
Well,
There's-
I was
there's a
saying those
three-
four are tightly grouped there where they all saw the project
It's all over.
the same way,
Right.
so it really goes to specs
Well, that's
as much
just
as
really
anything else.
Right, and that's why I took
But
issue
still,
with
the
that.
40,000 is a significant. But then when you go from the bidder that we're partial to the, I mean, it just starts. Yeah, it's crazy. All right, so
Yes.
come back to us with your best advice. Is that okay? Could we have a motion to recommend that? I don't want to just leave it hanging.
To hold.
Motion for the Director of Public Works and the Director of Parks to come back with a revised look at the specs for the greenhouse addition.
No, to the classroom edition.
The classroom edition, thank you. The classroom edition, formerly called the greenhouse.
And hold it in committee.
And hold it in
till our
committee
next-
until our next meeting. Anybody
I will
second?
second that.
Second? Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right. Thank you very much, staff. That's going to be very helpful. Next item is a resolution. It's an amendment of Grandmother Park Agreement, Resolution 36R13, and has to do with the construction part, not the purchase financing, but the construction financing. And it's a recommendation to not bid, but to accept a local contractor.
Move for approval.
Okay.
Second.
Alderman Burris.
I have a lot of questions and comments. As you know, I'll obviously vote against this no matter what, because I don't believe that it's required.
Excuse me, I'm having trouble. Ms. Beatty, Director Robinson, could you all step outside and have your discussion? Ms. Beatty, can't hear. Alderman Burris.
Thank you. I still have issues that this park is not needed. And even when this entity went out for a grant from the state came back and said, this park is not needed. And I have some issues about the budgeting piece as well. I also am still concerned about why we would give $50,000 from the Economic Development Fund for a pocket park in the middle of a neighborhood, not near anything business or commercial related. So from what I understand from the budget, 24% of the cost, originally the group said, we're going to raise all this money. But 24% of the cost is still coming from the city of Evanston. So it's coming from taxpayer dollars, and that was not originally part of the agreement. Then also on the budget piece, it has that 25% of the amount of raised funds is really still outstanding pledges. So that's not even money in hand. And again, that's concerning. So 50%, 25% is from government sources, and 25% even isn't realistic at this point. It's just a pledge. And there are already obviously pledges that were in and now they're gone. So they've been, I guess, people decided they weren't going to pledge the money. So I guess my question is, why do we continue to go down a path where we're just going to continue throwing money at something that's not needed? The other, so I'd like to know what grant from what organizations are outstanding, so we can put that on the public record of who said what grants. That's one. And then there's on the budget expenses incurred of $44,492. Can you tell me expenses incurred by what entity? Would that be, where did that money come from? Expenses incurred by the city. So is that $44,000 on top of the $50,000 on top of the $12,000 from CDBG? So we can get the numbers correct. And then the cash and accounts. There's Parks Foundation. I'd like a little bit more information about what Parks Foundation is, as well as the initiative account. So there's two different accounts, and could you explain to me exactly what those two different accounts are and who are the holders of those accounts? So I know there's a lot of questions here. I would like answered. Thank you.
Let me just say one thing. We're not being asked for any more money. We're being asked for permission to spend what they have in a different way than is normal procedure for the city. So the money has already been granted.
I'm just,
Right.
but there's money that's outstanding that they're wanting to go, but there's money that's not, they're saying that they've raised, but it's not really there. And so my questions are, again, I want to reiterate that I'm against it, but that the money, I want to know where this money's coming from. We've got these two different accounts. We've got accounts that say they're outstanding pledges. Where is that money? Where is where are those funds coming from? And if someone can answer that, that'd be great.
So most importantly, want to know what's up with the money they don't have yet.
Right,
That's
there's
just
outstanding
pledged.
pledges.
All
And
right.
there were pledges.
I'm going to, sort of go off the beaten path here and let somebody who's representing the park come up and answer some questions.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
if I may.
And who on staff is overseeing this? You are, okay,
And
good.
just to answer the first one, because it affects the city, it's in presentation, the outstanding pledges are ours. They've raised, so it's our $62,000 that is the outstanding pledge, because we have not, we don't pay until they raise everything else, and we pay directly to Core Lands for the property. So we do not get involved with the actual construction.
So all the outstanding money is matching money or from the city?
I believe there's about, is it $1,500? There's one
No,
that,
it says,
there's
no, it says
a...
outstanding pledge of $68,500.
Let's let him explain, and then just
Gay Riceboro or any of her team can explain, but there was one pledge that was made based on a specific guarantee to get the rest of the pledges in, and so it was a very small amount, so I'll let you handle that, but the very large majority was the city's contribution is outstanding.
Alderman Braithwaite and Grover, would you mind waiting until they respond? Okay.
My name is Jennifer Ellen Goldstein. I'm with Grandmother Park. To your question about the Evanston Parks Foundation and the Grandmother Park Initiative accounts, when we first started, we literally started with nothing. And so we were having a problem getting people to donate to us because we didn't have a 501c3. And it is kind of a complicated process to do. And so we started with having people donate to the Evanston Parks Foundation, which our understanding is works with the city for parks projects. Just not necessarily works with them, but helps the city. I'm sorry.
Let me Doug Gaynor, Director of Parks, Recreation, Community Services, members of the committee, and Chairperson Rainey. The Parks Foundation was established probably about 10 years ago. It's totally separate from the city. It's its own 501c3. They act as a depository as well as do some fundraising for activities. And so those folks in the cultural arts area who have had fundraisers, they deposit the money. It has to be approved by the Parks Foundation Board. And this was something that was approved as a depository on a temporary basis until the 501c3 came through for Grandmother's Park, which it has, and we are now in the process of transferring all of the funds that are in the Park Foundation for this project over to Grandmother's Park's 501c3.
So you're just holding it for them?
Correct.
Okay. All right, so that
Sorry.
takes
So
care
my
of it.
explanation wasn't very good, but we got our own 501c3, and that's why there's a Grandmother Park Initiative account too.
Got it. And then the expenses incurred and paid, $44,492.
My name's Adam Finlayson. I live in 1216 Darrow. The majority of the expenses, our agreement with Core Lands was that we would pay interest on they're holding the land for us. They're fixing the price, and that we would pay interest. A vast majority of that is interest paid. About $20,000 of that is interest paid to Core Lands. The other $20,000 is just operating expenses. I can go into additional details, but I think as a ratio for a $250,000 project to have incurred $20,000 of expenses at this point, we've had a professional fundraiser, a professional PR person, a number of mailings, a number of events. We have to maintain the property.
Okay, no, I just want to make sure that Grandmother Park is the one that has incurred the expenses.
Yeah.
Completely. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So now we're going to go to, why don't you just sort of hang out there for a minute? I think there's going to be some more. Alderman Braithwaite, and then Alderman Grover.
Yeah. Thank you, Alderman Rainey, and also thank you, Alderman Rainey, for the clarification in terms of what the vote is that that staff is looking for. First, congratulations to the Grandmother Board for doing an outstanding job for raising $200,000 in a very difficult economic climate. And as well with that, thank you. There are a couple of neighborhood groups I just want to quickly mention. The Dewey Darrow Neighbors for contributing to the success of this project. The West End Business Association for contributing to the success of this project. And also 3 staff, Doug Gaynor, Marty Lyons, and Stephanie Levine for helping make this possible. I think Alderman Rainey, you clarified it best by $50,000 of the city's funds are going to the acquisition of land that at the end of the project will come back to the city, just for clarification. $13,000 of that was also coming from CBDG for the acquisition of the land. So to your question, Alderman Burris, the project itself will be an asset of the city at the end of the development. And so I won't get into the debate of how relevant the park is for that. Unfortunately, that was before I was on council. But to this, again, we're just asking permission for the city manager to negotiate the bid process. So there's no additional dollars that's needed. And clearly, as part of the MOU, they needed to raise the full 256 before we get to that point. So the dollars have been raised. So the dollars have been raised, and we're ready to start the project.
Alderman Grover.
I think in 2010, we made a deal with the Grandmother Park Initiative, and I'm really glad to then, at this point, meet our end of the bargain. So I'm glad this is getting underway, and it's turned out, I think, as we all expected, and most of us hoped. So thank you.
Alderman Burris.
Well, I obviously am, a little dismayed on how the fundraising went about. Not necessarily as upfront and above board as I would have liked, particularly on the government piece of it is a little alarming and continues to be alarming for me. How much taxes, again, are we losing on this per year? Do we know? I remember it was between 5,000 and 7,000.
Yeah, it was when there was a house on the land. There was, I think that it was in the 8,000 to 9,000 range.
Okay.
Since the house burned down, it would be reassessed as an empty lot, and so
right,
and there's
if a new house was on, it would be 8,000 to 9,000. Okay.
Yes, but there's a competing vacant lot on that block that's been vacant for a number of years. So I have no reason to believe that it would be snatched up and built upon quickly. Can I make a clarification about where the $50,000? So the $50,000 coming from economic development is a little weird, and it's so when the plot.
Recipients are not supposed to say.
Well, it's this is the process that we were given. So when the plaza was redeveloped in the late 90s, there was some sort of account that was created where tax money from the plaza accumulated at $20,000 a year. A number of developments in the city have this, and it's what they're called a neighborhood improvement fund. So in the past, we've used this for planters. We sponsored a soccer team one year. We redid the cul-de-sacs with it. So it's really not economic development spending per se, but it comes from the Economic Development Committee out of negotiations that they make.
But actually, that fund was empty at the time, and so we had to transfer money from a different account because that fund was completely already spent. So it really wasn't from that fund, if you remember correctly.
I do remember correctly.
So
the explanation.
I'm not saying that that's your issue, that how you were directed. My point is, economic development funds for such a project don't make sense, and then they did not come from that fund. I just want to make it really clear that it was taken from economic development funding that we could have done for businesses.
That's correct.
I'm going to keep this debate on track. We are not talking about money here. The only money I'm going to let you talk about is the money that hasn't been raised, if there is any of that. That I don't know about. Alderman Braithwaite.
I was just going to ask for Alderman Burris made a claim about the fundraising efforts not being above the board.
We're not going to talk about that.
I just
talk about that later.
Okay.
Okay.
I
clarified. Yeah.
I want the group to clarify. Okay.
I want to speak to the motion. Surprisingly, I have no problem acing out other community or other contractors from other communities. No problem at all. However, the problem I have is the no bid issue. I see no reason why we shouldn't keep this sacred and have it Evanston only. And I know it's your money, I know it's not public money, but Evanston only bid process. And if only Nature's Perspective bids, then they're the only ones that bid. But I just feel that your money is very important, and who knows, if you do the bid process, you could get a better price than just having one bidder. And so that's my concern. Pass an ordinance or a resolution in this case, that says only Evanston bidders can apply, can bid, and just keep it in town, but bid. I really feel strongly about that. Alderman Braithwaite, did you have a question?
Well, it was more so a statement. I think the notion was to utilize Nature's Perspective as a partnership, and so it was difficult in looking at the current MOU to allow for that to happen. So I guess this is the best format for it to occur. My understanding is Nature's Perspective will, if need be, bid for the lowest bidder in terms of the other aspects of the project, but we're really looking for an opportunity for the local group to work with the local contractor to get the park done.
And I think that would be perfect, seeing that they're in the same neighborhood and I think it would be perfect. I just have always argued that we need. I think we ought to eliminate a lot of the strange requirements that we have in some of our bids, but I still very much find the bidding process sacred. Alderman Holmes.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it would be a much more open process to have it that way. And if they're going to be the low bid, no matter what, doesn't matter anyway, but at least it would be open, much more transparent.
So I guess my second question would be the concern, and I don't know if there's any staff that would be here to answer the question, maybe Marty. If the goal of the project, everything is timed out fund-wise, that they close the project this month, I believe, and if we have to move the project date, construction date, then all of a sudden the meter starts to tick again and the organization will incur more interest and fees from open lands. So my concern would be if we had to put it out to the bid process, how much time that would take, and then how much more or additional funds would the park group have to raise in order to meet that schedule?
Let me just comment on that. First of all, when you come with a resolution asking us to do something, you have to assume that the status quo is going to be maintained, that, what if we vote against? I mean, you can't assume always that we're going to vote your way. So maybe some modification of the bid process. I mean, these, since we don't have the requirement of 90 days or 30 days, whatever our process is, maybe we can do a modification so that other people get to submit bids for the opportunity to do the work. I mean, they're Evanston contractors. Mr. Bachwitz, otherwise known as Mr. Lyons.
To your point, Alderman Rainey, we would also want to look, we have some vendors that were volunteering time as well, and they were vendors that the city has worked with, so we would come back with that full report to say, okay, here's the modified bid, but if this is the direction of the committee and council, we would get started on that process today and get it going and out the door as quickly as possible. We already did a bid for this. I have a 1-inch. The staff created a bid document that is about 70 pages thick.
See, that's so ridiculous.
So I won't go there.
I know,
but
I know.
We do have that document that we could modify. We're not going to start from scratch. And we can get started on that immediately in hopes of trying to hit a 2013 construction timeframe.
This is June. It's a little late to be doing, but whatever. Anybody else want to comment? Alderman Grover.
Yeah, we do use a modified bidding process for facade improvement. We just require our applicants to come in and submit to us 3 bids, and it's not the formalized bid process, and it would give the group then a little
That's
more
what I've been thinking about.
nimbleness, a little more flexibility.
The thing is, though,
And then we'd be able to look at 3 bids. They've gone out, solicit bids, and maybe Nature's Perspective lands on the bottom.
are the specifications for the park in place? Is it on paper?
Yes.
It is, okay. So you have that to share with contractors? Okay. You can keep your 70 pages, and we'll have them, how about if we amend this, that they have to get, why can't we just say they have to bring us 3 bids? How would that be? I mean, just, that's up to you.
Well, it's certainly the group has I think the reason that we've worked so closely with Nature's Perspective is that there's a special relationship there. And I understand your concerns. I just want to offer our perspective. This is not only an Evanston-owned business. This is a community business. They're the ones who did the planters for us. They did the very first drawing that we had here. They helped us with the 4th of July. So they've done so there's a relationship there.
And there's a relationship with them in the city. We give them tons of work. So we know their work. You see it on the bills list almost every month. So we know them. I mean, they're very special. But so is the bid process. And, this has been a very public project. And I just
It should be
feel
a
that
very
we-
short turnaround time to
Yeah,
go and get 3
that
bids
would
and
be up
bring
to
them back.
you.
That's all
You know,
have to
you've
do.
got to
Do that by the next meeting.
push the contractors to give you bids.
That's all. It just will be much more transparent, I think.
So could,
It's already been moved and seconded, right?
yeah, but not
Just accept.
this one. All
What
right,
do you
so,
wanna-
You need to make
well,
a form of an amendment.
I am going to vote against. I no longer oppose the park. I think you've done a great job. I didn't support the money in the beginning, but you've got it now. I'm supporting it, but I think we need to do a bid.
I'll make the motion. I
For
just
the
want to be clear.
amendment,
I want to
yeah.
be clear on what the amendment is, and then I'll make it.
I
I'm
think
just
the
saying
amendment would
that
be,
it should be similar to, like Jane recommended, similar to the facade program, where they bring us 3 bids.
Submit 3
That's
bids.
all. Submit 3
Okay,
bids.
so we'll make. I'd like to make a motion that we add to the resolution that the park will provide 3 bids. Right? At-
submit 3 bids. to-
Submit 3 bids to our city staff
Yep.
by the next meeting.
Get through with it.
Oh,
We won't be ready
Period.
by next meeting.
okay, by the next meeting.
Yes.
Oh,
No, when it's up to
I'm
them
looking
to
at-
get them.
They can do 3
Yes.
bids by the next meeting. That's 2 weeks away. They should be able to do that.
And if they don't, they're just,
Okay.
it's just going to take longer. So
Okay.
I'm sure that their motivation is to get them by the next meeting.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So let us know, like, a week before, and, like 10 days, whatever.
Procedurally, then, I would just suggest that this is being held in committee because they're bringing back
Yes.
3 bids. So
Right.
we would hold it in committee and present the amendment with the bids at the next meeting, or as soon as they're ready.
So, excellent, okay, all
Okay.
right. So, and it's a resolution, so whatever we do at the next meeting is done. It's done.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
You have to move in second. And we need to, it's
Beg your
been,
pardon.
I'll second it. We need
All right,
to-
all those in favor of the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All those, okay. Any opposed?
Yes,
One
one
opposed. All right, now we're going to vote on, we're going to vote on the resolution as amended, which is to hold it in, no, let's move to hold it in committee. That's what we need to do.
I thought that was a part of the amendment.
Did you say hold it
That was a
in
part of
committee?
the amendment,
No,
yeah.
he didn't say that.
hold.
Oh, okay. All right.
I just made the amendment.
I
So-
thought Marty said hold.
All right, the resolution's going to be held in committee as amended. Okay, all right. Anybody object to that? No. All right, moving right along. We are way behind. Next is a resolution, A5, resolution relating to prevailing wages for public works projects. It's an annual requirement. Could I have a motion?
Move to approve.
And there was a second. All those in favor of adopting the resolution on prevailing wages?
Aye.
Yep. Any opposed? Next is ordinance that is evidently recommended by Alderman Nguyen to establish a three-way stop at Lakeshore Boulevard and Hamilton Street, which does not meet the standards for stop.
Second.
Okay. Alderman Burris?
I'd actually like to hear from the Director of Public Works or whoever is in charge of this piece. I am 100% for this, and I will vote for it. I guess my concern is it doesn't meet the standards. They didn't receive a petition. So why is it going through when I know that other aldermen have asked for stop signs and have been said absolutely no, we will not do it. So I'm wondering if maybe Alderman Nguyen knows something that I don't, that you can get a stop sign without meeting the requirements that I've just missed. So if I could have that addressed by staff, that would be marvelous. Because I've been asking for a stop sign at the corner of Washington and Dewey for, I think, 2 years, at least 18 months, and have been rejected over and over again. So I would like a stop sign as well.
And Alderman Burris, I think when we talk to you, we have a process. And I explained to you the two processes in which we install stop signs. An alderman can recommend any ordinance that they wish, and we will place it for vote. So if you would like to do that.
I would like that.
Then
Thank
we
you.
will prepare that.
I really appreciate that. I was not informed that I was told, I'm pretty sure by your staff, that it was not possible to do because of the standards.
Okay,
Thank you.
Don't lose this opportunity.
No.
You need to make a reference to the Administration Public Works Committee that the stop sign be put up. All right. Alderman Grover.
Just quickly, that I had a conversation with Alderman Nguyen about this today. With some of the similar concerns, stop sign here has very few traffic repercussions for the larger neighborhood. It's really to address a seasonal redirection of traffic one way going north on Lakeshore Boulevard, and some drivers in one block of it that are confused about that redirection. And without a stop sign there have been no conflict, but near conflict. And the stop sign is a signal to drivers as to pay attention to the one-way direction of traffic there.
But it is a permanent.
Right, more than just seasonal.
All right, no other conversation, discussion. All those in favor of introducing this, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is Ordinance 55013, which authorizes the city to borrow funds from the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency Water Pollution Control Loan Program in the amount of $1,894,000 for the rehab of the large sewer on Central Park Avenue and Main Street and Sheridan Road.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next is Ordinance 62013, reducing the number of Class B licenses after management change at the Orrington.
Second.
Okay, Alderman Fisk has asked that this ordinance and the A9, which is the complementary ordinance, be rules suspended and voted on tonight. Next is Ordinance 60. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ordinance 63013, increasing the number of B licenses for Dow Escondido, LLC, doing business as Hilton Orrington, and the same goes for this. May I have a motion to introduce? Okay.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I think we are finished.
No presentations and no discussions.
No presentations and no discussions, says our staff person. All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The meeting will start, P&D will start 7:15? Is that 7:15? 7:15. Thank you, committee.